Yo, what is up guys? I'm bringing you a brand new video, and today we're discussing Succession Lahn PvE. In this video I'm going to take you through the pack-to-pack movement of the class, as well as talk about the infinite damaging combo and show you guys my add-ons, which I will do right now. These are the add-ons that I recommend that you have for pretty much every scenario. You don't really need to change very much about these depending on the spot that you're at, and this is just what I would copy down. I'm going to link these in the description of the video as well if you do need to reference them. But starting off with the class itself, talking about the main pre-buffs of the class, and these are going to be the following. So when you hit ARMB, this is going to give you a 12 AP buff, and when you hit Shift Q, this is the main add-ons that you're going to want to make sure that you have all the time. 10% attack cast, as well as extra AP against monsters plus 30, and that's on Selpuri, which does have a less than 20-second cooldown, so you can keep this up all the time. So every 10 seconds, you want to hit A or D, and then RMB, so you can get that 12 AP. And anytime Selpuri is available, you want to hit Shift Q, and that way there you can get those add-ons. In addition to that, another great pre-buff skill is going to be your Bleeding Heart skill. This is more of a debuff than a pre-buff. Essentially what you're doing is you are getting the minus 20 DP inherently on the skill, as well as the add-on is minus 20 DP, so that's minus 40 DP. If you start off your packs with this, it's going to help out a lot, especially at these higher AP cap spots. So basically, the start of a pack is typically going to look like the following. You're going to hit ARMB, Shift Q, then C. Then you go F into SF, you hold LMB, RMB, and then you hold RMB. Then you hold SLMB, and then you go into Shift LMB. Now that right there is typically going to kill the majority of packs of anything, really. I obviously missed some AoE on the Tongue Guide Executioners because I was trying to talk and basically do the combo at the same time. But it's going to be enough to kill most things. And the cooldowns on the class are so low that you basically are going to be able to infinitely loop that. So let's show you what that's going to look like even with a Z buff on. So we're going to hit Z buff. We're going to hit ARMB, Shift Q, C, FSF into LMB, RMB, into RMB, and then SLMB into the Magnus skill, which is SLMB, or Shift LMB, I should say. So once you do that, you can basically restart the combo over again. You don't need to worry about hitting C and debuffing each time. Typically, you only need to debuff with that C ability one time per pack. But if you were to, say, want to loop that into a second loop, then that's what I'll show you what this will look like despite the mobs dying. So we're going to do ARMB, Shift Q, C, F into SF, LMB, RMB, and then hold RMB. Then we can go into SLMB, into Shift LMB, then you go directly back into FSF, into LMB, RMB, into RMB, into SLMB. Now at this point, you will not have Fatal Attraction up, typically. If you're doing this and you're hitting the mobs, you get hit acceleration, and that's not going to be up. But that doesn't matter because the second time around, you need to hit your C button again in order to get the debuff again. And then you just go back into the same rotation over and over and over again. So what that's going to look like, ARMB, Shift Q, C, F into SF, LMB, RMB, you hold RMB, then you go S, LMB into Fatal Attraction, and then from there you go FSF, LMB, RMB, RMB, Shift LMB, and then back into C, FSF. Your Shift Q is up, so we'll use that whenever it's available. Into LMB, RMB, hold RMB, S, LMB, Fatal Attractions back up, and then you just repeat from there. So essentially what you're doing is you are using the following main abilities in a rotation. And those main abilities are going to be your Pendulum Kick, the first tick of Pendulum Kick. So that's why you hit F into SF. Then you go LMB, RMB for Blooming, RMB into SLMB. And those are your main core skills. Those are the ones that you're rotating around, essentially. The other skills that you're using, aka Fatal Attraction, as well as your debuff skill with C, your Shift Q, and your ARMB or DRMB, either one, that right there is going to be your pre-buffs. So essentially, the entire grind revolves around you using Selpuri and Fatal Attraction whenever the cooldown is up, using ARMB and C whenever, basically every 10 seconds in order to debuff slash pre-buff yourself, And outside of that, all you're really doing is you're rotating F into SF, LMB RMB, RMB into SLMB. Now, something that I typically will do is notice how at the end of RMB, I'm kind of iframing. So I'll do RMB into an iframe into SLMB. I just find that it cancels nicer, and typically you do need to reposition around that time anyway if you're grinding at, say, a tower spot. So you can always use Shift A and Shift D in order to get pass through on mobs, and typically the SLMB ability does flow really nicely after an iframe. Sometimes if you're not iframing, you can see that the startup is a little bit slower for some reason. So it is a little bit nice to do that cancel. But that's basically it regarding Succession Lahn PvE. So to reiterate it one more time, the main pre-buff skills are going to be A RMB for that 12 AP. You're going to hit Shift Q in order to get your add-ons. C is your debuff skill. After that, it's as easy as hitting FSF. You hold the animation until LMB RMB, then you hold RMB, then you iframe, use SLMB, and then Fatal Attraction. Then from there, you just go back into FSF and you repeat everything over and over again. Whenever your Shift Q is back up, you're going to use that. Whenever your AP buff is down, you're going to use ARMB. And whenever the mobs need a debuff, you're going to hit C. But outside of that, it's just FSF into LMB RMB, into RMB, iframe, SLMB, Fatal Attraction. You go to the next pack, you might hit C, FSF, LMB RMB, hold RMB, SLMB, Fatal Attraction, go to the next pack, our Shift Q is up, debuff with C, FSF, LMB RMB, hold RMB, we go to the next pack, C, FSF, LMB RMB, hold RMB, and it's not dead, so SLMB, and then you go to the next pack. And something that you can use for movement, something that's really, really nice is whenever you're holding W, if you tap RMB at the end of each animation, it lets you move forward. I also like to hotbar Eyes of Blood, so you can do W RMB into, say, Eyes of Blood and get a little bit of extra movement. So I just hit that number 2 key. And another useful movement skill is after W RMB, you can also hit Shift Q. So that way there it uses your Selpuri and you also get a lot of extra distance. Another main movement skill that you can use if the pack's close enough is if you hold WF and then... Alright, I kind of messed it up there, but if you hold WF and you get a target on a mob, you can actually hit RMB and it'll take you right to it. So you can hit WF and then RMB and it'll take you right to the mob. So your main pack-to-pack movement is going to be W RMB into Shift Q, or W RMB into your number 2 key for Eyes of Blood, or it's going to be WF into RMB whenever you have a target on a mob. Those are typically going to be your main ways to go from pack to pack. But outside of that, the combo is very, very basic, and you can rotate it over and over again. Now, something to consider is that you want to use SLMB as sparingly as you can, as well as Fatal Attraction is only really good to use after that SLMB skill because it is a cancel. You can also use Fatal Attraction after, say, Shift Q if you'd like to use it at the start of a combo. So what that might look like is you can go WRMB Shift Q into Fatal Attraction to start off. But I honestly am very unimpressed with Fatal Attraction's damage. I think that it's mostly not really something that's too useful to use unless it's just for repositioning purposes. But outside of that, your main damaging skills, the things that are going to do the most damage, are definitely going to be your Pendulum into SF, into LMB RMB, into RMB. Those are your main bread and butter, highest damaging skills. So if you had to choose to use anything for big DPS, it's going to be those skills right there. SLMB is mostly filler, Fatal Attraction is mostly positioning, and then outside of that, you've got your ARMB for pre-buff, your Shift Q for pre-buff, and your C key, which is for debuff. But sometimes that debuff's not even worth using if you're killing squishy enough mobs, because the damage is like really, really bad on that C skill. It's really just for the debuff. But honestly, guys, Lahn is so easy that that is essentially it. I hope that this was a very useful guide for you guys. I appreciate y'all very much for watching. If you guys would like to see some more content on Lahn, I do stream 5 days a week on twitch.tv/choice. You can find the link to that in the description below. But I'm thinking that my next journey might be Succession Megu, so potentially Succession Megu guide to follow once I get a little bit more used to that class. But thanks guys for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Later.